Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Saya Luqman Hariz. Anda sedang menonton episod istimewa Niaga AWANI kami bawakan selepas pelancaran kerjasama ekonomi Asia Pasifik atau kita lebih kenali sebagai APEC 2020 di mana Malaysia akan menerajuinya tahun depan selaku tuan rumah. Dan kali terakhir Malaysia mempengerusikan APEC adalah lebih 20 tahun lepas ketika Asia Tenggara sibuk berada dalam kecaman atau genggaman krisis ekonomi yang memberikan pelbagai cabaran berbeza untuk APEC pada ketika itu. Tapi 20 tahun selepas tahun 1998, tiada lagi krisis keuangan ataupun krisis ekonomi, tetapi pelbagai cabaran ekonomi baru berdepan kita. Dan apa cabaran yang dihadapi oleh APEC diterajui oleh Malaysia gerak ke hadapan selepas tahun 2020. Dan menyertai saya hari ini untuk berbincang dengan ini adalah Aida Safinaz Alias, APEC Senior Official for Malaysia, dan izinkan saya mengalihkan perbualan ini ke dalam bahasa Inggeris. Aida, thanks so much for joining us.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. First of all, I mean, when you talk about APEC, especially within an ASEAN perspective, you can't help but mention the Bogor goals, Matlamat Bogor 94, which became synonymous with APEC. In his opening officiating speech, the Prime Minister mentioned that we are well on track, or in fact we have achieved the Bogor goals, tariffs now. Much fewer and further in between. But I can go a bit more technical with you. In terms of the progress report of the Bogor goals of 94, where are we now at today?
Okay, the Bogor goals is a pledge towards free and open trade and investment for the region of Asia Pacific. Which means that tariffs will be lowered, barriers to trade will be diminished. Yes, we are moving very, very much to success in that field. But 30 years after the existence of APEC and 26 years after the life of Bogor, and we're coming to the end of Bogor now, things have changed, as you have mentioned, and we're realizing now that the perception towards what trade and investment is, which is like in the past is about liberalizing, making it easy to trade, making it easy for businesses to go about their daily transactions. That is no longer the narrative that we can keep, because people are changing. The digital economy is very vibrant now. People are more informed, and there is a feeling of discontent in the world about the economic model at the moment, about free trade, as Tuan Mahathir had mentioned during his speech, that free trade, sole free trade is just not enough anymore. We have got to bring back the meaning. Why are we doing, or why are we increasing the prosperity? Why are we increasing wealth? Why are we creating wealth? Why are we so obsessed with growth? Is the means or the end, is it just to be rich? And to what end are we just going to let the few become rich and the rest are, well, it's okay as long as we have the economic wealth of the region, then we have achieved our goals.
So the model is broken?
It's not broken, it just needs to be improved. And this is what Malaysia will try to bring, because coming with 2020 is also the end of the Bogor goals, but the start of something new. So for the post-2020, post-Bogor vision, this is what Malaysia intends to do, is to bring the value add of what Bogor is and what else could be achieved through the creation of wealth. How do we deliver the benefits of trade and investment to the everyday people?
Yep.
And this is the most enormous task of next year in 2020. Because we launched today, it feels like the year has already started for us. But by the end of 2020, we want Tuan Mahathir with his colleagues of 20 APEC economies to launch this new and improved goal for the Asia Pacific that could also change the way the world looks at trade and investment.
New and improved, and of course what's in the past is worthy to look at as well. We ride on the success of BOGO 94 to look forward. And you mentioned something very interesting just now, which is the new economic model. How is it new? What's new about it? What can we improve and what will we improve?
The new part would be to humanize what we do. The economic development must now has an end game where citizens, population is our, the well-being of them is our end goal. And it's not just about GDP per se. So also in our hosting year, topics which has been talked about in the world but not at APEC to date is what are the measurements that depicts a success of an economy, for example? Is it just GDP, or do we want to go beyond GDP, and how far beyond GDP? Do we want to talk about happiness? Do we want to talk about levels of education? So these are the conversation that needs to happen in 2020 in order for us to come to a new vision for the Asia Pacific.
Alright. Kita akan kembali bersama Aida Safinaz Alias, APEC Senior Official for Malaysia, membincangkan berkenaan dengan apa cabaran yang dihadapi oleh APEC dan kepengerusian Malaysia APEC 2020 tahun depan. Niaga AWANI akan berhenti rehat seketika, kita kembali selepas ini. Kembali bersama Niaga AWANI. Hari ini kami bawakan episod istimewa untuk anda sempena pelancaran kerjasama ekonomi Asia Pasifik ataupun APEC 2020. Kita mahu bincangkan kepengerusian Malaysia terhadap APEC 2020 tahun depan, menerajui 21 ekonomi Asia Pasifik, 21 termasuk Malaysia. Apa cabaran yang dihadapi sejak kali terakhir Malaysia mengerusikan ataupun menjadi tuan rumah untuk APEC pada tahun 1998. Persekitaran ekonomi global hari ini dan juga dari kebenarannya sangat berbeza, dan bagaimana kita perlu memastikan pertumbuhan serantau malah global dan pertumbuhan Malaysia itu terangkum dan mampan untuk semua. Dan untuk bincang berkenaan dengan itu, menyertai saya hari ini adalah Pegawai Kanan APEC Malaysia, Aida Safinaz Alias. So Aida, in the first segment just now you mentioned something very interesting to me, which is that our development goals in APEC and maybe in general as well were kind of fixated about GDP. Were we fixated about GDP growth and headline numbers growth, and possibly along the way inadvertently overlooked other real measures of the quality of life, like happiness, inclusive development? And have we been fixated on GDP growth too much over the past 10 years?
We feel that even though there are moves or discussions in the world that are talking about what's beyond GDP, as long as there's no data that would support towards the creation of other metrics than GDP, then there is no use. But in order for us to get to the collection of data that is beyond the normal economic data, we need to start the conversation going, and it cannot just be having discussions. It needs to move on to the realization that this is needed. Data collection on things that are beyond the normal economic data needs to start being collected, and in the end, when it's time for us to say that, well, okay, we've made a decision that we're going to measure our economic success through other means than just the GDP, then we'll have all the data and things can move forward. But the conversation needs to start at APEC.
Because at the end of the day, it's growth, but at the end of the day, it's about people.
Yes.
I posed this question to Yang Berhormat Minister Datuk Darul Liking, and I would like to probably echo the same question to you, because at the end of the day, it's about people. APEC seems, high and grand. Its motive and its goals are very admirable, and it has made significant changes over the years. But to the common man, how do you relate this? How do you translate and cascade everything that's discussed here, or everything that's implemented or agreed here, to actual well-being of the man on the ground?
Yeah. So one of the priority areas in our hosting year is inclusive economic participation through digital economy and technology. And we do know that probably this is not the end of the advent of technology, but we are at the height of technology at the moment. We have digital economy, we have artificial intelligence, robotics, internet of everything. Not just things.
Yep.
So how do you manipulate what we have, the best of what we have right now, to ensure that the people are feeling the benefits of our efforts at APEC? And we feel that it's through focusing on a few groups which we feel that can really affect change, like women and youth and SME startups, social enterprises, the aging population, because technology can do very much for the aging population, and not just for them to get back to the employment or anything, but to make sure that their life is more enriched. So efforts at APEC will affect policies in the 21 economies. So when we make a conscious decision to ensure that the digital economy and technology proliferation would be used or be utilized by these groups that we have identified, this will make sure that they're able now, that maybe a woman, for example, after childbirth, they feel like they want to get out of the workspace and want to stay home and raise their kids. But with technology, they're able to do that. But also contribute to the economy if they are freelancing, for example, or if they are involved in e-commerce, for example. So we feel that using technology and digital economy is the best way to ensure that people, citizens, are able to be part of this revolution, this changing landscape of the economy, the global economy.
Hence, economic cooperation translating to real increase in the quality of life. We find ourselves again and again, in Bogor 94, even before that, outlining discussions, policies, initiatives, and probably 5 or 10 or even 20 years from then, having to relook at some of these things because things have changed so much. There's no shame in that because no one can predict the future. But I guess the question is, because the YB Minister has also mentioned that we have to now relook at a lot of the things that were discussed in Bogor in 94. So what we discuss here today and throughout next year in APEC, how do we future-proof what we decide and discuss here?
I suppose there's no way to future-proof anything. I think if we want to be safe, the safest thing we can do right now is secure that humans are optimized, which means that they have to be skilled, they have to be skilled to the level where if there are more changes in the future in terms of technology or economic changes, like economic crisis or anything, humans are still able to be resilient. That's the best way to future-proof anything, to focus on humans. And that's why our theme is called Optimizing Human Potential Towards a Future of Shared Prosperity.
Kita akan kembali bersama Aida Safinaz Alias, Pegawai Kanan APEC Malaysia, untuk bincangkan apa cara ke depan ataupun apa cabaran-cabaran yang kita akan hadapi bergerak ke depan dalam Malaysia mempengerusikan APEC untuk tahun 2020 dan juga apa cabaran yang kita depani untuk membangunkan ekonomi Asia Pasifik untuk beberapa tahun akan datang. Niaga Awani akan berhenti seketika, kita kembali selepas ini. Kembali dalam Niaga Awani, episod istimewa akan bawakan dari perlancaran kerjasama ekonomi Asia Pasifik ataupun APEC 2020 di mana Malaysia akan memainkan peranan tuan rumah sekali lagi buat kali kedua sejak tahun 1998, lebih 20 tahun yang lepas. Cabaran yang didepani pada ketika itu amat berbeza dengan cabaran ekonomi yang kita depani hari ini. Apa strategi Malaysia untuk membawa APEC mara ke hadapan dalam persekitaran yang baru dan memastikan pertumbuhan ekonomi kekal inklusif dan mampan untuk semua termasuk rakyat Malaysia. Dan menyertai saya hari ini adalah Aida Safinaz Alias, Pegawai Kanan APEC Malaysia. Aida, before the break we talked about a great number of things, but I mean it's not a secret that today's global economic environment is quite fragile, quite volatile and quite hostile at times. What are the challenges that face APEC and Malaysia's chairmanship of APEC or Malaysia's organising of APEC vis-a-vis 21 years ago?
And I think this is also in Tuan Mahathir's speech when he launched APEC 2020 today, is that although in 1998 we've had the same kind of fragile situation, but there is a stark difference in that in 1998 the WTO had just been established in 1994, so this 4 years after the establishment of the WTO. So multilateralism and the faith towards multilaterally binding commitments are very strong. 22 years on, right now, the WTO is facing a crisis in that the Doha development round, which has been launched, is not seeing the end. There's nothing going on in that sense. And in terms of the binding rules that's already out there, that's already in place right now, there's a threat to that as well. In terms of, there are members of the WTO who are calling for reform and etc. And then also we have the US-China trade war. So, yes, they're kind of the same because of the volatility and the uncertainties, but this time the threat is larger. And if a binding organization like the WTO are not able to be preserved, then it would be chaos, more and more, and not just US and China or some other economies of the world who are going back to protectionism. It will be a domino effect. It will be the reverse of globalization. People are going to start putting barriers and all that. So, and the strength of APEC is that it's non-binding, it's voluntary, and it operates on consensus.
But will that also be a weakness because it's non-binding and voluntary?
Actually, we see it as a strength, because when the leaders of 21 economies come to the table and they pledge or they declare something, it is more meaningful. They do it with no force at all. So this is, we feel, this is the one that is going to change or like mold it back to that faith towards globalization. Globalization is good. It is good.
How do you survive a change in governments? Because we've seen that happen in some countries, and huge drastic policy changes on trade have taken place, is taking place now because of a change in governments, because of a change in policies. How because we talked about future-proof before, so how do you survive that?
So, you see, what government change means is that they are just translating what the people want. And this, okay, again, bring it back to the people. You can, at the government level, have this position, right? Like the United States wanted to be or were the leader for the TPP, and now they no longer want it because the people don't want it. And so whatever change that needs to be done, it must be felt by the people, it must have the resolve of the people, and the people will translate it to what they want, like, a government change or trade policies.
21 years ago when Malaysia first hosted APEC, I mean, the name of the game back then was financial crisis, and now 20 years on, the name of the game is probably trade protectionism and erecting trade barriers.
Yeah.
You have, technical expertise as well, and you have expertise in international relations. Of course, you're very much involved in APEC. What's the name of the game in global trade and economic cooperation 20 years from now?
If Malaysia has its way in 2020, it will be shared prosperity. So, yes, you create wealth, you do things that we did 20 years ago. You keep turning the prosperity, but the prosperity has to be shared in terms of region, in terms of class, in terms of race. As long as everyone's happy, and then it's again translate to more growth.
Right. Just very briefly before we end, also 20 years ago when Malaysia last hosted APEC, throughout in the circa late 90s, globalization was probably at its height. It took about 20 years to today for the name of trade or the reputation of trade to somewhat turn negative, because as we've seen today, let's not involve politicians and leaders play a huge role in that as well, in changing the image of global trade and globalization. How long do you reckon it will take for us to restore the good image of free trade and open economies and globalization?
Maybe another 20, 30 years, but
we're on the right track.
As a government person who's been doing this for years, and I've seen the change of the way it is, the perception towards trade and globalization. But when I started doing APEC, the economic and technical cooperation element, the capacity element of APEC, has not really been highlighted as much, but we've gotten so much benefit. Well, let's say APEC is a trade effort, right? We've gotten so much benefit from, Malaysia has gotten, Malaysian people have gotten so much benefit from being part of APEC, because we get so much capacity building. So perhaps it's a lack of communicating that, but also there should be more effort in that sense. But if we move past 2020, which is beyond Bogor, with that kind of mindset, the shared prosperity mindset, and always saying like, we're doing all this for the people at the end, then I think it would be much faster than 20, 30 years.
From now.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about the people. Thanks so much, Aida. Aida Safinaz Alias, Pegawai Kanan APEC untuk Malaysia, dan kepada anda, terima kasih kerana menonton Niaga AWANI. Istimewa selepas pelancaran kerjasama ekonomi Asia Pasifik APEC 2020, di mana Malaysia akan menjadi tuan rumah 21 tahun selepas kita memainkan peranan yang sama di sini juga, di negara ini, untuk kemakmuran ekonomi bersama negara dan juga benua Asia Tenggara dan Asia Pasifik. Terima kasih kerana menonton. Saya Luqman Hariz. Assalamualaikum dan salam hormat.